Ever wonder what people did before modern medicine? Ready to be horrified by what passed for healthcare centuries ago. The medieval period wasn't exactly known for its advanced medical knowledge, and some of their so-called cures were downright deadly by today's standards. Let's take a frightening journey through some of medieval medicine's most dangerous treatments. Number 5. Mercury, the liquid silver killer. Would you drink poison to cure an illness? That's exactly what medieval people did with mercury. This shiny, fascinating liquid metal captivated medieval physicians who believed it held special healing powers. They prescribed it for everything from skin conditions to that most dreaded medieval disease, syphilis. Mercury treatments came in many forms. Patients might be told to drink it directly, rub it on their skin, or even sit in a mercury vapor steam bath. The metal was so commonly used that many physicians and apothecaries kept vials of it ready for various ailments. One popular treatment involved mercury being made into an ointment called blue mass that was rubbed onto syphilis sores. The thinking was that one powerful substance could drive out another. What medieval doctors didn't understand was that mercury is incredibly toxic to humans. It damages the nervous system, leading to tremors, memory problems, and eventually insanity. It destroys the kidneys and builds up in the body over time. Many patients who received mercury treatments likely suffered from mercury poisoning that killed them slowly and painfully. The famous phrase, "mad as a hatter," actually comes from the effects of mercury poisoning. Hat makers used mercury to treat felt, and many developed tremors, slurred speech, and erratic behavior after years of mercury exposure. Now, imagine drinking it as medicine. Even royalty wasn't spared from mercury's deadly effects. King Charles II of England was given mercury as part of his treatment during his final illness. Records describe his symptoms in his final days: inability to speak, convulsions, and blackened skin, all consistent with severe mercury poisoning. Perhaps most tragically, mercury remained in medical use for centuries. Even into the early 20th century, mercury compounds were still prescribed for certain conditions. Today, we know better. Mercury is recognized worldwide as a dangerous neurotoxin that has no place in medicine. Number 4. Bloodletting, draining life to restore balance. How could deliberately causing blood loss help heal the sick? This question never seemed to trouble medieval doctors, who made bloodletting one of their go-to treatments for almost everything. Bloodletting was based on the ancient theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Medieval physicians believed illness resulted from an imbalance of these humors, and excess blood was often deemed the culprit. The solution: remove the bad blood to restore harmony within the body. The practice was performed in several ways. Sometimes a physician would use a special knife called a phleem to open a vein, usually in the arm. For a more measured approach, they might apply leeches to draw blood more slowly. In some cases, they used heated cups placed on the skin to create suction that drew blood to the surface, then made small cuts to release it. Bloodletting was prescribed for virtually any ailment: fevers, headaches, digestive issues, mental disorders, and wounds. The amount of blood removed could be substantial, often several pints in a single session. For perspective, losing just 2 pints of blood today would merit an emergency blood transfusion. Many patients grew weaker rather than stronger. In cases of infectious disease, bloodletting would have further compromised an already struggling immune system. For those suffering from any condition that caused anemia or blood loss, additional bleeding could prove fatal. One famous victim of excessive bloodletting was George Washington. In 1799, after developing a throat infection, His doctors removed nearly 5 pints of his blood over just a few hours, about half his total blood volume. Washington died shortly afterward, likely hastened to his grave by this treatment. The terrifying reality is that bloodletting remained a mainstream medical practice well into the 19th century. Some doctors continued to defend it even as modern medicine began to emerge. Even today, therapeutic phlebotomy is used for a few specific conditions like hemochromatosis, but under carefully controlled medical supervision, removing only small amounts of blood when truly necessary. Number 3. Theriac, the poisonous cure-all. Would you take medicine made with snake venom? Medieval patients did exactly that when they consumed theriac, one of the most complex and expensive medicines of the Middle Ages. Theriac originated in ancient Greece as an antidote for poisons, but evolved during medieval times into a cure-all wonder drug. Its recipe was elaborate and exotic, containing dozens of ingredients, sometimes more than 70. The centerpiece was usually viper flesh, believed to build immunity against poison. Other components included opium, myrrh, cinnamon, saffron, and various herbs, minerals, and animal parts. The preparation of theriac was an elaborate ritual. Ingredients were combined in a specific order, then fermented for years before use. Only licensed apothecaries could legally produce it, and cities like Venice became famous for their theriac production. The medicine was so valuable that its public manufacturing became ceremonial events, with officials overseeing the process to prevent counterfeiting. People consumed theriac for everything from plague protection to treating epilepsy, digestive problems, and even melancholy. The wealthy kept personal supplies in ornate containers, taking small amounts daily as preventative medicine. During plague outbreaks, demand for theriac skyrocketed. What made theriac so dangerous? For starters, some ingredients were outright toxic. The viper meat might contain residual venom proteins. Many mineral components included what we now know to be harmful, heavy metals. The opium content meant users could become physically dependent. Perhaps most dangerously, people relying on theriac might delay seeking other treatments that could actually help. The inconsistency of theriac production added another layer of risk. With so many ingredients, quality control was nearly impossible. One batch might contain more opium than another, leading to unpredictable effects. Unscrupulous makers sometimes substituted cheaper ingredients, creating potentially harmful concoction. Remarkably, theriac remained in official pharmacopoeias until the late 18th century. Its decline came gradually as medicine became more scientific and complex formulations fell out of favor. Modern analysis of surviving theriac recipes suggests that taking it regularly would have caused cumulative toxicity that could lead to organ failure, especially of the liver and kidneys. Number 2. Arsenic, the poisonous beauty treatment. Would you rub poison on your face to look more beautiful? Medieval noblewomen did exactly that with arsenic-based cosmetics, which were also used medicinally for various skin conditions. Arsenic has a long and deadly history in medicine. Medieval physicians prescribed it for treating ulcers, cancers, and various skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis. Its most popular formulation was arsenic white or white arsenic trioxide, a powdery substance that could be mixed into salves, ointments, or ingested in tiny amounts. Beyond its medical uses, arsenic became prized in beauty regimens. Noblewomen used arsenic preparations to lighten their complexion, as pale skin was considered a mark of nobility and beauty. These arsenic cosmetics would be applied to the face and neck, sometimes daily, to achieve the desired pallor. Some even consumed minute quantities of arsenic, believing it would brighten their complexion from within. Queen Elizabeth, I was known to use a white makeup containing arsenic and lead, which may have contributed to her declining health in later years. The irony is that while arsenic might temporarily create a pale, clear complexion, long-term use caused the very blemishes women were trying to hide, along with much worse effects. The health consequences of arsenic exposure are severe. Short-term symptoms include vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. With continued use, patients develop characteristic raindrop pigmentation on their skin, painful nerve damage, and eventually organ failure. Perhaps most insidiously, arsenic is a carcinogen, meaning long-term users faced increased cancer risk. What makes arsenic particularly dangerous is how it accumulates in the body over time. Hair, nails, and bones store arsenic, creating a reservoir of poison that continues damaging the body even after exposure stops. Modern forensic scientists can identify arsenic poisoning in centuries-old remains by analyzing hair samples. Despite its deadly nature, arsenic remained in medical use surprisingly long. Well into the 20th century, compounds like Fowler's solution, potassium arsenite, were prescribed for conditions ranging from asthma to syphilis. Some arsenic compounds were among the first effective treatments for sleeping sickness and other parasitic diseases. Only with the development of safer alternatives did arsenic finally disappear from legitimate medicine. Number 1, mummy powder, consuming the dead for health. Would you eat ground-up human remains to cure an illness? As shocking as it sounds, consuming mummy powder was a mainstream medical treatment in medieval and Renaissance Europe. The practice began with a misunderstanding. Ancient texts mentioned mumia, originally a natural bitumen or pitch from Persia used medicinally. Over time, this became confused with the resinous materials used in Egyptian mummification. Eventually, European physicians concluded that the preserved bodies themselves must contain powerful medicine. By the 12th century, powdered mummy had become a standard item in European pharmacy. Apothecaries ground up pieces of Egyptian mummies and sold the powder at high prices. Physicians prescribed it for treating bruises, preventing bleeding, and as a general cure, all. The logic was that consuming something that had defied decay might transfer that preservative quality to the patient. Demand quickly outstripped the supply of authentic Egyptian mummies. This led to a gruesome trade, where bodies were stolen from local graves, artificially mummified with bitumen and herbs, then dried in the sun before being ground up and sold as genuine mummy powder. Some Afanal grave robbers even specialized in preparing recently deceased bodies specifically for the medical market. European nobility and royalty were among mummy powder's biggest consumers. King Francis I of France allegedly carried a packet of mummy powder mixed with crushed rhubarb at all times as his emergency medicine. The practice became so commonplace that playwright William Shakespeare referenced mummy as a medicinal substance in his play Othello. The dangers of consuming mummy powder should be obvious. Human remains can carry pathogens that survive even after death. The bodies used often came from individuals who died of infectious diseases, potentially transferring those same illnesses to the consumer. The embalming substances used in actual Egyptian mummies contained toxic compounds, including mercury and arsenic. For fake mummies, who knows what additional harmful substances might have been added during processing. Perhaps most disturbing is how long this practice continued. Mummy powder remained listed in medical texts well into the 18th century. Its use only declined when the scientific revolution began demanding evidence for medical treatments rather than relying on ancient authorities. The ethical implications are equally troubling. Religious leaders occasionally spoke out against the desecration of human remains, but the practice continued largely unchecked. Egypt's archaeological heritage was literally consumed piece by piece, with countless mummies destroyed for dubious medical benefits. So what does this journey through medieval pharmacy tell us about human nature? Are we really so different from our ancestors who consumed these deadly remedies? What dangerous cures might we be using today that future generations will look back on with horror? And most chillingly, how many people throughout history died, not from their original illness, but from the very medicines meant to heal them?